Hello friends, my name is Greg. Welcome to the Blue Feather Ephemera channel. I have an eBay store by the same name where I sell vintage magazine print advertising. Today we're going to take a look at the ads that sold during the month of January 2025 for the highest price. This is a first look at my 2025 sales. Let's get started. The first one is this nice full color ad from 1942. It's a full page, and the advertiser is the Reichhold Chemical Corporation or Chemical Company of Detroit, Michigan. In the detail of the ad, it shows how they protect an aircraft from corrosion. And I've seen this firsthand. Some people maybe haven't seen it, but if an aircraft is beat up or banged up or shot up, there is this yellow undercoat that you can see. In the detail of the ad here, it talks about that undercoat. It's a zinc chromate primer that is the undercoat yellow color on an aircraft. And then it says there's the olive drab enamel that goes over top of it. And these two together protect the aircraft from corrosion. Interesting ad, good history here. Vivid colors. I sold it for $23.77. Next up is another ad related to the military, but this one is not a World War II era ad. This one came from 1953, the Korean War era, and it says the general order is Coca-Cola. In the detail, you see the Coca-Cola bowl here. It says sell Coca-Cola, and it's got the service cap on top of it, and that's what we called back in the day a bus driver cap. I sold it for $28.77. The next ad is also from 1953, and it's for the Lassie Coat Company. These ladies are modeling these coats in front of the New York City skyline. It says, insist on Lassie, the coat that guarantees quality. Here's what the image looks like. It's a full 2 pages, and I sold it for $21.77. Here's an ad that I've anticipated sharing with you because it's got a lot going on. First of all, the advertiser is Pendleton Woolen Mills based in Portland, Oregon. I always like running across advertising from companies in Oregon and Washington State, and that's because, being comparatively newer states, they don't have the industrial and manufacturing base of, say, a New York City or a Milwaukee or Chicago or Cleveland or whatever. And so people who want to collect that sort of thing for the area where they live out there, where the population has grown exponentially in the past 50 years, they have a limited universe of items to choose from. And so, we know about Boeing and things like that, but this is a very nice ad to be able to make available to them. The other thing that I wanted to mention here is they are at Disneyland in Anaheim, California. And in the eastern U.S., everybody that thinks of Disney thinks about Disney World and Cinderella's castle that's in the park down in Orlando. That's the one that you saw every Sunday evening, Tinkerbell, splashing her wand around. This is actually Sleeping Beauty's castle in the Anaheim Park, and I think folks out in this part of the country don't realize that even if there is a castle that's in that park out there, it's for a different princess. So that's interesting to see. The clothing in these ads, just plaid woolens, very nice. I sold this ad for $28.77. Next is an example of the kind of thing that I sell from magazines that's not an advertisement. This is a page from Woman's Home Companion, 1942. This is a World War II era page. And in the detail here, Woman's Home Companion conducted a survey of readers, managed and compiled by Ann Maxwell. And at the top of the page, the main question, should women be drafted? And here it goes into detail. They divided the reader responses by whether they lived in a large city or a large town or a small town. and then they gave the average of all of the responses. But it says, should there or should there not be a selective service law for women to place them where needed in the nation's service? Question number 2 here, are you or are you not in favor of compulsory military training in high schools? And finally, should or should not management and labor in war industries be subject to military control and regulation for the duration of the war? All weighty questions of the day. I sold this page for $23.77. The early 1950s was a time of nuclear proliferation, and the risk of a nuclear war or an atomic attack was on everyone's minds. And so the Mutual of Omaha ran this advertisement in 1951, and it goes into some detail about how you could minimize your risk in the event of an atomic bomb. It says how to survive an atomic bomb. And in the picture here, at the top of the page, it shows what you can expect depending on your proximity to the blast. And it talks about the various waves, radiation, and so forth. Down here, it talks about where you can go and what you can do to minimize your exposure. And so it's pretty grim content, but it's great history for a collector. And I sold it for $28.77. Now, first of all, you might notice the big price on this page right here, $68.77. It's not what I sold it for. I sold it for $28.77. And the reason why is because the fellow who purchased this page and the next one is a relative of the artist that drew these pages. The artist's name is Gene Mack, and this one says Hitting for Distance, and it's just a magazine feature that talks about the sluggers and the heavy hitters of the 1940s. And you see here Babe Ruth, and it also mentions Lou Gehrig, Honus Wagner is in here, Tom Leach, and so on. So a lot of cool sports history here. And I had some interest in this page at the listed price, but at the same time, I wanted the fellow that had a personal connection to this page to get it. So I sold it to him for $28.77 along with the next one. Here's the second ad that was in that deal. 1945. This was in the same magazine title, different issue, but both of the pages are by Gene Mack. This one is titled Great Coaches, Pet Plays. It's football history here. Now, I priced, this is the original list price of this one, $28.77. I had the baseball players listed at $68.77 just because all of those players, household names. These coaches, not so much. You got to be pretty hardcore to know these names, but it's got the coaches named Houghton and Little and Zupke and Harlow and Yost on this page. And it's got a paragraph about each of these coaches' pet plays. Interested article, $28.77. Here's an example of the kind of industrial advertisements that I like to sell. This one by a company called Pangborn in Hagerstown, Maryland. And this image is taken at an Empire Reeves steel mill in Mansfield, Ohio. I always put place names in the listing titles when I can. What you're looking at here is an industrial appliance in the steel mill that this company manufactures. And it says that at this operation, the job is rotoblasting, and their machine can hurl 1,200,000 pounds of abrasives per hour. That's pretty neat. The other thing I'd mention about this is 2 pages separated, and anytime I sell an ad that is on 2 separate pages, I always back and sleeve both so that they're ready for immediate display. $21.77. The last one I have to show you comes from 1940, and again, this is not an advertisement. This is a magazine page, and this is based on research by R. Buckminster Fuller, who was considered one of the most important thinkers of the 20th century. That's not something I knew. I just now read that. But I am familiar with the name, and I know a little bit about the kind of work that he did. He was he was an architect, but he was also a systems theorist. He was into conservation and energy management and all of that kind of stuff too. But the word that describes him that I think is really interesting, he was considered a futurist. And I think that might be in the same way that Carl Sagan and some other folks that we know of were considered futurists as well. You know, they did their basic science, but it was all with the mindset of, you know, planning for, preparing for, and improving the future. So that's pretty neat. This map here is done by Philip Reagan, and it just talks about the distribution of energy, where it is and where it ain't, where it's needed, and all of that. Pretty interesting. $23.77. I hope you enjoyed this look at items I sold during the month of January for more than $20. And if you would, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you turn on notifications so that you won't miss new content. I'll be bringing that to you soon. Bye for now.